Hey guys, what's going on? Laying back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Apollo 10½. Apollo 10½ is an American animated science fiction film that tells the story of Stan, a boy growing up in 1960s Houston, Texas, who dreams of becoming an astronaut someday. His dream is motivated by the ongoing hype of the space race at the time, as America prepares to send man to the moon through its Apollo 11 mission. Early in the film, Stan is approached by two members from NASA who recruit him to take part in its prelude to Apollo 11, on account of his science background and the fact that their lunar module is too small for adults. His future self narrates and reminisces about his childhood, while his past self trains for the upcoming mission. The movie is essentially a collection of stories and memories as opposed to a straightforward narrative, and it is told brilliantly. It made me feel like a kid again when watching it, and it succeeded in telling a moving and cohesive story not in spite of, but thanks to its many threads. As I mentioned, Stan's perspective is told from 2 points of view, the first being in his youth. This version is likable right from the start, with his typical childhood innocence combined with the close relationship he has with his parents and especially siblings to create an entirely wholesome character. Once he gets roped into the Apollo mission, that's when his imagination kicks into high gear. He takes part in all of these crazy training scenarios, but they're told from the lighthearted perspective of a child. His character provides a perfect window into the mindset of what a space-obsessed child would have been thinking at the time. The other point of view for Stan is told from his older self, who narrates the majority of the movie and is portrayed by Jack Black. He does an excellent job in the role. He has just the slightest hint of a Texan accent and gentle tone of voice that really adds to the whimsical nature of the story. Stan's older self recalls all of the things that influenced him in his youth, which are distorted through a lens of nostalgia. This is juxtaposed with the insight he has gained as an adult later in life, and shows that as wonderful as his childhood may have been, not everything is always as it seems to be. This leads me to talk about the nostalgia factor, which is definitely the movie's biggest selling point. I was actually surprised at how quickly and for how long the movie deviated from Stan's Apollo mission, as it goes in depth with all of these activities, events, and other quirky happenings that occurred in his life at the time. Different things are examined, like moving TV antennas to get a signal, playing Red Rover, swimming in overly chlorinated pools, rigging pinball machines, and eating creative recipes, among many other things. I started to relate to these little things more and more until I felt like I was seeing my childhood happen right in front of me. This is what helped me empathize with Stan's dream more than anything else. I was able to connect with Stan on a personal level because there were so many things that we had in common just from growing up, even in different eras. The movie seamlessly blends nostalgic reality with childhood fantasy, and always finds a way for the audience to connect to it. The usual quirks of childhood aren't the only thing examined though. Since the movie takes place during the space race, it goes out of its way to showcase both the obsession with science and the technological boom that came during that time. Things like the founding of NASA, the spectacle of the Astroworld theme park, and the immense size of the Astrodome Stadium are all symbols of just how massive in scope not just Stan's imagination was, but also what the imaginations of most Americans would have been during that time. There's a larger-than-life feeling of awe that comes with the territory. Even when people are just sitting at home, the television provides characters with a world of unlimited possibilities. I was geeking out at the insane number of classic sci-fi movies that kept getting referenced throughout the story. Every single thing that's referenced in this movie has a purpose to it. Individually, they're not much, but when added together, they enhance the atmosphere of wonder and creativity associated with the era, and Stan encapsulates these qualities to a T. Despite the good things about it, Stan's older self is also able to be objective and reflect on the bad things that came with the times too, such as the Vietnam War, racism, and even touching upon people who complained about how the Apollo missions were a waste of tax dollars. I like that the movie is able to balance these negative qualities without letting them get in the way of the story. It goes to show how much better society has become since then, while having most of the nitty-gritty details fly over Stan and his siblings' heads and allow them to be carefree kids. Everything presented in this movie is made better because of its rotoscoping animation style. The visuals look beautiful on top of its faithful representation of the time period. It puts the audience in the shoes of a child and gives a semi-realistic feel to their experiences, which makes the nostalgia that much more meaningful. This nostalgia is experienced not just through Stan's eyes, but also his siblings and friends. While Stan obsesses over anything he can find out about Apollo, others grow bored of waiting for the lunar module to land and make wisecracks toward the news anchors. The variety of youth perspectives add more flavor to how others experience the Apollo mission in their own way, while injecting humor at the same time. Comedy carries over to other parts of the movie outside of the space race as well. The kids get into all kinds of mischief, such as making prank phone calls or changing the lyrics of a song during a music class rehearsal. These further contributed to my sense of nostalgia, helped me relate to the kids, and were hilarious in their own right. It has a positive, uplifting tone that makes for a pleasant watch without necessarily ignoring the bad things that occurred. The soundtrack helps out a lot in this regard, as it is stuffed with loads of great 60s pop and rock tracks that provide energy and once again added to the nostalgia of it all. Eventually, the movie does refocus on Stan's Apollo mission, which was just as compelling as his activities outside of it. His reactions to the training activities are funny, and he gradually becomes more confident as the space race hype starts to build up more. Things become noticeably more tense as the movie draws closer to the end. Presidents make moving speeches, tragedies occur, and Walter Cronkite's reporting ramps up the intensity of the story, which emphasizes the kind of danger that the real-life Apollo astronauts were putting themselves in. Stan's mission helps soften the delivery of the high-stakes mission to a certain extent without downplaying the efforts of the real-life astronauts. A part of that is due to how good of a job Zachary Levi and Glenn Powell do in their roles as NASA officials and how they coach a child through the lunar landing. The voice acting in general was well done. The only complaint I could think of that people might have with this movie is that one's enjoyment of it may depend on how nostalgic they're willing to be, especially since the story isn't exactly traditional. But I think it's good that the movie takes time for the viewer to soak in its setting so that one can get a good idea of not just what happened, but what people thought about it. Overall, Apollo 10.5 is a fantastic work of animation that explores American youth's perception of an incredible time in human history, while doing so in a way that is both charming and poignant. If you like animated movies, especially ones with styles that differ from the usual CGI stuff these days, and you want to watch one that's based on true events, this is an absolute must-see movie. Its balancing of childhood fantasy with reality, combined with its stunning animation and overwhelming nostalgia, makes for a truly immersive experience, as if the viewer is really there seeing Apollo unfold with everyone else. It's clear from the outset that director Richard Linklater had a goal to relay his own space-age childhood in cinematic form, and he unquestionably succeeded on all fronts. What did you think about this movie? Did you experience any nostalgia when watching it, or would you have preferred if it was more focused and traditional in its approach to the story? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Apollo 10.5. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Polish action flick, Furiosa. Bye bye!